Hello and welcome to patch 13.4 of League of Legends. It's been kind of a while since our last video, but we're finally here. My name is Chris, and always my patch review duo partner, Jason.
Hey Chrissy, good to be here for patch 13.14, or as I like to call it, it's not patch 13.4.
There's always a clever name, isn't there? Okay, first I'd like to say I myself had kind of a health scare a few days ago. It's kind of a funny story, but I thought it was entertaining. I don't mind sharing it. I had some wicked food poisoning and I got really dizzy and I slipped in my bathroom and I accidentally hit my head on my own toilet seat right above my eye and in my forehead, and I got kind of like a concussion basically.
Wow, just thank God you didn't faint when that happened. That would have been bad. They would have
Well,
found you in the toilet a day or two later.
I didn't really faint, but I did suffer some very minor, like kind of short-term memory loss. Like I don't really remember hitting the toilet seat, but I know exactly like what happened, and there was only one thing I really could have hit on the way down.
That's awful, man.
Yeah, there was a ton of blood. It was absolutely. Oh yeah, and right after I was like already. I was really tired. I was also awake for like 30 hours right when this happened, basically playing WoW. Go figure. And then
Oh.
I'm on vacation. Anyway, so and I ended up getting a nosebleed right after this happened too. So it was a twofer. Oh, it was crazy amount of blood. When I cleaned it all up, though, it didn't look nearly as bad, but it was kind of like a under the skin kind of boo boo.
Weird, man. There must be a full moon out or something, because this week I also came very close to fainting in my shower. I basically had to just like catch myself on the sill and recover. And today I ended up with a bad nosebleed for the first time in I don't know how many years. So something's going on with us, man.
All right, I just thought that was an amusing anecdote that the toilet got my number. So drama aside, let's get into 13.14. And first thing we're going to talk about is Jason is going to run down this new game mode for us. I have not played it yet. I've been enjoying a WoW binge, but I always keep very, very close eye on all the patch notes. So let's hear it, Jason.
Yeah, I did not have high hopes for this arena mode when I heard it was going to be 2v2v 2v2, and I figured this would probably be like you could just basically make alliances with two of the other teams to team up with the third one. But as it turns out, you only play one team of two at a time. And I gotta say, like, I really like this mode. I think that as far as a mode that is fewer than five people on a team and that is just fighting all the time, no strategizing or objectives per se, this is about as good as I think this kind of mode could get. You basically start out and you're at a low level, and you're given levels after every match. You don't need to earn them by getting kills or anything like that. And after every match, you'll either get levels and gold to buy items with, or levels and augments, which are some really cool things. You basically have a choice of three different augments that you can choose from. You get a couple of rerolls through the game. And it's everything from just like more stats to crazy things like 80 ability haste to dragon soul effects to random blitzcrank hooks or ability to use your ult twice, once after another. So there's some
Wow.
pretty cool stuff you can do with the augments.
Dota 2
Um,
levels are broken.
It is, but it seems like they've really put a lot of thought into how can we make these seem like they're broken without actually completely breaking open the gameplay. And what I really like about the maps, there are four different maps that shuffle through the course of the game, but they're all fairly similar in that they're a circular arena with a lot of different points of a lot of different like walls, several bushes, and a few blast cones and other plants that you can hit for to recover your health and get a shield. And so those are almost kind of like the slight objectives that you can fight for. But what I really like about the map structure, and why I think this just strikes so much better than ARAM, is that it gives you a lot of different ways to move around your opponents and get through their line just by good positioning, to trick them with the bushes, to use your dashes over the walls, or just to try and run them in a circle. There's really a lot more potential for outplay than pretty much any mode I've ever seen since Summoner's Rift. Um, and meanwhile, you basically you fight each round until both of the opponents are dead. So it's pretty quick, and you don't have the situations like you get in ARAM where three of the people are walking around with 5% health, and they're like, "Well, I'm pretty much screwed here." It's just honestly the best game mode they've introduced since I think Dominion, and I'm a big fan of it.
Hmm. Well, that's interesting.
The one thing that I don't like is that they seem to be doing the champion balance changes like they do in ARAM. And I kind of understand why they have to do that. You know, there's some types of champions that are a little better than the others. Particularly, I think a lot of the top lane, like heavy damage tanks and fighters, tend to be really good. The junglers and the supports tend to not be so good, but there are exceptions. And I kind of understand why they have to have some type of balance change per champion there. But they have such a good place to do that in the augments. They could simply give the overpowered champions slightly worse augments, instead of trying to make this situation where, oh, you take 20% more CC, and we're gonna reduce your incoming damage by 15% and your outgoing damage by 25%. And by the time you finish with all these balance changes, the champ doesn't even act like they normally act. Besides that, I think they did a banger of a job, though.
Well, it sounds interesting. I might try it at one point. Doesn't
I'm looking
immediately
forward
jump
to
out.
jumping in
It's
there with
something.
you.
Yeah, it doesn't immediately jump out at me as something I would enjoy, but all my friends have been doing it, and I haven't done it yet. So,
Yeah, like
well,
this was a really pleasant surprise. And just to very quickly like piggyback on my own thought there, I'm pretty impressed with this patch. Like I don't think they hit everything on the nose. Obviously the event and the little fighting game thing they made really is just kind of like mash three buttons as they come off of cooldown and make sure you have the right specs before you fight. But overall, like the fact that they did this and the arena and all these different champ skins and icons at the same time, this really feels like an event. This isn't like some crappy, let's throw a battle pass out there and a couple of missions no one cares about, and then we'll have the IT guy's 13-year-old son write some fan fiction as a visual novel. Like this really seems like they care about their product again, and I'm impressed.
I approve you belittling their writing team as a bunch of toddlers. All right. Next up, one thing I'd like to mention before we get into the champion changes. I have thought about it a long time, and I have decided on Malphite as our next champion judgment. And I
All
know
right.
I've only given you like a week and a half to work on it, but I don't think you have to think too hard on it. You don't have to come up with any crazy Venn diagrams or anything this time. And we'll try to get that out on August 1st, like the last one.
That's fine. We can change everything but his ult.
I have a few ideas. I haven't thought super hard on it, but
Mhm.
later the next day I'll try super hard to think of something cool. I have
All
a
right.
really good
Cool.
ideas for like his passive and something else, but I haven't thought super hard on it, but I will.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to hearing what the champ that you would choose would be. So I'll be thinking about Malphite tonight and probably for the next 6 days.
Okay, let's hop right into our champion changes finally. And first up, we got Aatrox. Now, this was a long time coming where they were making several changes to some of the tanks and some of the bruisers where they were losing a lot of base damage, but then gaining a lot of scaling in the form of their bonus and total AD ratios. This one, I have to say, it looks like a gigantic buff, and it's probably a good thing. It's Aatrox, in my opinion at least. I think he falls off a cliff in the late game, as his animations don't really get any faster, and the game kind of accelerates beyond his kind of DPS, in my opinion. But as I look at this, and his Q is something they haven't changed basically since he was reworked. I see this like just exploding in the late game. I mean, you look at here at the bottom; it's 6 times his total AD on the third.
Mm-hmm.
On that's just absurd, man. I mean, that's those flash Qs are going to be off the chain. So this has definitely got to be a buff. I don't care how bad it is early on. This is so much scaling, it's absolutely redonkulous. And then the extra wave clear to boot. I don't even think he needed that, but that's nice.
Yeah, so when I was looking at the numbers, it seemed to me to be closer to power neutral. Maybe a little bit of a buff. Because they are taking some significant damage off of the base. And I think that what they're doing here is they're basically saying, hey, Aatrox, stop building so tanky. This is what they did to Fizz when Tank Fizz top and even mid became a thing. This is what they basically do to champs who can build hybrid when the tank build becomes too strong. They say we're going to take a lot of the base damage away and we're going to force you to build more AD. It doesn't mean that he has to build glass cannon, but it does mean that he has to build more AD to be effective.
I can't agree with the power neutral, man. I see these base numbers, they're dropping by like 10, 20%, and then you see these ratios, they're going up by like a ridiculous amount. And the fact that they're total AD ratios, I think is going to just overcompensate for the base numbers a lot harder.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at like the, if you want to just look at like the maximum amount, and it's gone from 480 to 600, versus the base damage went from 540 to 420. You're looking at a break even of 100 AD. Yeah, that probably is power positive.
It's like 120 times like 300 AD. So I don't know, it's a lot.
Yeah, if he's at 300 AD like late game, that's definitely better for him. But in the early game, it'll be a little bit less. And again, if he's not building a lot of AD, this isn't going to help him much. I think they're really trying to push him to build a little bit riskier, so that even if he gets way ahead, there is at least a way to kill him.
Okie dokie. Next up, we've got Diana.
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't received too many changes since her rework. We've got some buffs to the shield and some buffs to her gap closer. I don't see anything too damning here. The base damage on Luna Rush is absolutely pathetic, so a bit of an extra AP isn't really going to do a ton for her. And Pale Cascade is her most underwhelming ability. It's already kind of laughable in terms of defense. It's basically just piling on for the damage. It's not that great, but it's something, I guess. I mean, they're obviously buffs, but this isn't going to shake up too much.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at these numbers and you see like a 20% AP increase in her total combo, plus a little bit better shielding, that looks like a really good buff. The problem is Diana, even though she does a lot of damage, she doesn't really build like hundreds and hundreds of AP to do that damage. Usually she has some hybrid scaling or just some attack speed in her build.
I would have liked it if they increased the health ratio on Pale Cascade. I think that would have been cooler too.
Yeah, I agree. Really, they could go either way, but these buffs are nice. They're not as big as you think, and I haven't seen too much Diana lately. How about you?
I haven't played that much the last few weeks, honestly. But prior to that, she's always not been that popular. You barely see her mid. You usually see her in the jungle. She's not terribly popular. She's not Ivern levels by any means, but you know.
Oh man, Ivern is a champ I think they wish they could have back.
Ever since her rework, I think she's moved into an ultra consistent state. Though her ultimate is just so powerful and consistent now. I think she's in the best place she's ever been at this moment. So this is probably good. Obviously, it's good.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely doesn't hurt to have higher ratios.
Yeah. It's power neutral.
Don't even bring that up.
You throw that word around a lot. Okay, Hecarim. Next up, we got another nerf to Spirit of Dread, and this was quite a fantastic ability about 3 changes ago. Now the healings dropped off, the ally healings dropped off, the caps dropped off, and some of the resistances have been nerfed too. As long as it still scales for a percentage of his damage, instead of the flat amount that it used to be for like 10 years, it's still going to be extremely impactful. And it should be, because it was a bit of a forgettable, laughable ability for many years. And now that it's based off of percentages instead of flat, It's it really is a niche clutch ability now, and it never even gave resistances. So as long as he doesn't lose it, this is basically a net buff in his lifetime of changes.
Yeah, I mean, Hecarim's definitely done well in the last few seasons. I'm definitely fine with him losing a little bit. I think he generally tends to be strong in games lately, and he'll continue to be good.
Yep. Okay. Next up, we got some Jax changes. We got a nerf to the cooldown on his stun, and I think this was actually buffed when he got his mini rework where he got his new ultimate and stuff. And then they also reduced or increased the mana cost on his ultimate to be more in line with most of the AoE ultimates in the game that do magic damage. Most of them, almost, I think all of them are 100 actually, except Karthus. Maybe his is like 200. Anyway, yeah.
A
So
lot of them are 100.
this is basically just a reversion of the Counter Strike state prior to his rework.
Yeah, taking off a second on Counter Strike, particularly at max level, where with some ability haste, you can get it down to about 5 seconds.
Yep.
Definitely doesn't feel good. But the Grandmaster at Arms, I mean, that's really just a quality of life nerf, right?
No, I would say that this is kind of in line with the rest of the mana users that have an ultimate that does area of effect damage like this.
You're not wrong, but it would feel so bad to basically set up the perfect fight with your abilities, and then you just run out of mana to use your R
I don't think he's very
with a
mana
champion like
hungry.
Jax.
I only play him in the jungle, but I don't really feel like he's very mana hungry, to be
Right,
honest.
he's not a particularly mana hungry champion, and that's why I feel like this is less of a balance change and more of just a quality of life nerf. The Counter Strike is the big one.
Yep. Okie dokie, next up we got Karthus. Always getting messed with since his jungle days began.
Oh
We've
my
got
god.
some reduced damage. These numbers on his lay waste have been dicked with into oblivion.
These
As
numbers are so stupid.
up and down they go. We got some reduced damage on his Q. Mind you, that does do double damage when it hits a single target. It does more damage to monsters now. Both of these figures have been changed multiple times since he started jungling, God forbid. And we got less mana restoration from his E. It was kind of an underwhelming part of his kit anyway. I don't even know why it got nerfed. He can't really lane anymore.
Let me just repeat these numbers: 43, 61, 79, 97, 115.
I don't really have a problem with that kind of thing, to be honest.
You can hear the number 43 and immediately say, oh, that's X% of the opponent's life bar.
Think of it
Like
like
off the top
this.
of your head?
It's 230 at rank 5. That sounds nice.
If they did 50 or 100, you can tell immediately what that's going to do. Let me give you a better change they could have made. 40, 55, 70, 85, 100, and then just add 5% higher AP ratio than it is now. Boom.
Or if we could just made it
Simple
do
numbers.
bonus damage to monsters.
Easy to clear. I mean, the monster damage going back to 100% is fine.
No, I mean some abilities, like with the recent rel changes, they just do bonus flat damage to monsters.
Yeah, they're like, oh, this ability that does 30 damage is going to do 650 damage to monsters now. Whatever. It seems like we'll talk about it a little bit on a later change. But it really seems like they are trying to shoehorn champs into the jungle where they don't need to.
Yeah, whatever. Okay, next up we got Kindred, the jungler that started it all. The jungle silliness began with this champion years ago. We've got more health, we've got more armor. Of course, that's useful for the jungle camps. Wasn't aware of this bug with her passive. That's interesting if that was actually abused the way I think it could be used, where you could just get 2 marks on someone in quick succession. Usually there's like a 5-minute period where you can't mark the same enemy champion again with...
I think that's what they're talking about, Wolf. Yeah.
And then Dance of Arrows. This is actually probably a really bad nerf, because this is kind of her outplay potential and her auto attack reset. So this going up even 1 second is a big deal. Keep in mind that when she puts down Wolf's Frenzy, it immediately resets Dance of Arrows, and when she uses Dance of Arrows inside Wolf's Frenzy, it also reduces it by half of its cooldown too. So she gets a lot of her outplay potential from Dance of Arrows' uptime. And
Yeah,
yeah, nerfing the damage is just laughable. That's not why it's good. It applies on hit effects, resets her auto attack, and just gives her a fast little juke. So, you know.
yeah, it's still gonna knock down her damage on that level 2 gank by 20% though. Like, besides the increase in the cooldown, meaning less outplay potential, uh, Dance of Arrows is basically how she duels enemy junglers early on. And Kindred is the type of champ that, at least until now, and I think even now, you have to get ahead early, and you have to basically play aggressively, snowball the game, and that's how you make your mark on the game. Because if you don't get ahead early, you're just never going to get ahead on Kindred.
Yep, that's 80 carries
So,
for you.
yeah, so even though they made her jungler routine a little bit better, like, this basically just encourages kind of more boring gameplay and probably gives her a more even power curve, where if she doesn't get ahead, she has a little bit more of a baseline that she can work from in the jungle. I would say this is probably a nerf overall. What do you think?
Any nerf to Dance of Arrows is a huge nerf because it's so core to
Yeah,
her like playstyle. They didn't nerf her E, Mounting Dread, and that's kind of her kill move, which scales super well into the late game.
that's okay. They wanted to make sure that Nafiri wasn't worse than the other champion that basically sicked the wolf on him when she came out. I think
Yeah,
this is why they did that.
you think so, huh? Okay, next up we got Lysandra, who has some interesting changes here. First up, the passive. Some quality of life things for her opponents where you can see them, and then now they don't lose vision of people anymore. They're kind of slow anyway. I rarely even see these actually hit people, but it is
Yeah.
something. It's way better
Mhm.
than her old passive, which just gave her like mana basically.
Yeah. I do think that the fact that the frozen thralls will keep on moving until the moment they detonate is a nice change for her, though.
Yeah, that's good. It says that was removed though.
Yeah,
Oh, removed that it doesn't do it. Okay.
right. They used to walk up to you like a Kog'Maw and then just stay still for the final second. You can get away.
Yeah, they should probably give those like 20 more movement speed.
That wouldn't be too bad, but she already has ways to slow and bind you, which helps the frozen thralls catch up.
Yeah. Okay, next up we got some quality of
And
life.
did you mention I think you did, right? There's a lot more healing on the frozen tomb.
I'm not there yet.
Oh, okay.
Next up, her Q, Ice Shard. We've got some more area of effect slow going down, and they changed it so she can pull off the flash Q like the best of them now. That's what the post precast shenanigans are about. Be honest, I'm surprised she couldn't even do that before.
Yeah, are you aware, because I'm not, of what the all targets in a radius mean here? Does that mean in a radius around the first target or around the entire projectile's length? Because that would be crazy.
Well, what happens is it's a line skill shot, and which it's only eligible to damage one person, and then after it
Mhm.
hits one person, it splits into a cone, and everything behind the first
Oh,
target hit gets damaged and slowed. So now
uh-huh.
everything that gets hit by the cone will be slowed instead of only the initial target that caused it to do the cone.
Oh, so it's everyone that takes damage from the Q will also be
Yeah,
slowed?
yeah.
Okay. That's probably a clearer way to say it.
Really only comes into play a lot in the laning phase when you shoot the minions and then they get hit behind the minions.
Yeah, sometimes you can hit a few different people in a team fight with a Q.
Okay, and then next up, we got some meaningful changes to her self ultimate. This is kind of interesting. We've got some extra healing, basically, and yeah, just some quality of life stuff, better scaling. Doesn't heals for such a pathetically small amount that it's kind of an afterthought. That being said, it didn't even actually used to heal for a long time, so Anything is cool, I guess.
Yeah, this is bigger than you might think because not only are they increasing the AP ratio from 25 to 55, which let's say she has 300, 350, 400 AP, means a couple hundred HP right there. But I think they're also making it a lot easier to hit the 100% bonus healing based on your missing health. So this could really mean 3, 4, 5, 600 even in a really good scenario extra health that you get back if you were really low.
Well, it's not showing it, but I'm pretty sure that minimum AP ratio gets amplified by the missing health.
Yes. So instead of 25 times 2, which is 50, it's 55 times 2, which is 110% of her AP. Nothing to sneeze at all.
No, that's very good.
Yeah.
Too bad she can't cast that on allies to save them, make them untargetable and heal them.
That would be fucking cool.
Yeah, that would be kind of like a Kale ult plus Tom.
A little bit like a Carol. Yeah. Yeah, more like a Tom Kench, I think.
Yeah, but
like,
they just have to be untargetable. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, this is really nice. I think this is going to probably Ling Brissandra, or maybe even bring Lissandra back into the meta.
I wouldn't go that far since it's like not offensive. It's nice, but she'll need something that makes her more of a threat in like the laning phase or an even faster clear, I think, to up her laning phase profile.
Yeah, I don't know.
She was split pushing like demon, but then the nerfs to her Q just kind of really set her back. She was like she used to push the lanes faster than anyone other than like Echo, basically.
Yeah, her Q is good, like so good late game now, but it's definitely not as good as it used to be early.
Used to have a shorter cooldown too. It was like a machine gun later on, but all that stuff got nerfed when she got updated and stuff.
I still think this heal is huge, though.
She used to be one of my go-to blind picks a long time ago.
Oh, she's a super useful mid laner.
Okay, next up we've got Milo, and we got, what, more nerfs here? I don't know where it ends. This is getting a bit...
This guy is already dead! Stop killing him!
Yeah, I honestly think they should just revert him back to his initial launch point. But like I said, I think all of it's just based around how easy his kit is to leverage at higher levels of play in the laning phase. He's still, even with all these nerfs, when executed properly, his laning phase is still very oppressive because bonus range plus move speed plus on-hit effects. It's like Nami on crack cocaine. It's just super strong.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
that's where I think it's all coming from.
It's nice if you're next to a Caitlyn or a Tristana, but yeah, I think 2 patches ago it was. They took away half of his ally AD ratio on Fired Up, and now they're taking away almost half of his base damage on Fired Up. Might as well just throw this ability in the trash now. There's so little reason to play Milio after these nerfs.
I bet he was stupid good on Draven when he first came out.
If the opposing team has like 3 area of effect immobilizes, okay, maybe play Milio.
I'd rather play Taric than Milo, honestly. But
at this point, yeah.
Okay, we're going to skip past the new champion real quick. We'll tackle that at the end like usual. And now we're going to go down to Rek'Sai, who's gotten some playtime in the top lane recently. It's the winds of broken meta and change have brought her up there. We've got some nerfs now that she's seen some success up there. Less damage on the, what is that? Yeah, the W. And the E, which I guess that's probably actually a buff, honestly. Keep in mind when she has max rage, her E does true damage. That's Furious Bite. So overall, I imagine this is actually, I don't know, that's a big drop off in the base numbers. It's hard to say if this is power neutral.
No, I think it's a small. I think it's a small nerf, both to the sort of tanky AD Rek'Sai build as well as the glass cannon Rek'Sai builds. They've been pushing her more towards a glass cannon for a while now. I think they've backed off in the last couple of patches and given her a little bit more of a reason to go tanky AD. Yeah, here they're just reducing the base damages, which hurts the tanky AD build, and reduces the amount of bonus AD that you're getting on the E, which hurts the glass cannon build. This isn't great for Rek'Sai, but she's been a good champ lately.
All right, next up we've got Rel, who's getting some more tweaks here, nerfing her base armor, which is kind of her thing, and then nerfing her passive, which is her other really big thing. So just more downer, I guess, for this champ that for a second there seemed actually really cool, and I never even saw anyone even still play the champ after they got all those huge buffs. So kind of
Yeah, I
depressing.
mean, Rel's not the type of champ that's ever going to be popular, but before you feel too bad for Tyler, Rel has been the beneficiary of a lot of buffs in the last month or two. And so the fact that they've given her some slight nerfs since and are doing so again now isn't too bad. I don't think she's a viable jungler, but at the support role, she can do okay.
Yeah. Alright, next up we got Rengar, and it seems they finally got tired of Rengar's building 100% crit instead of 150 lethality. Finally pulling back on some of his crit synergy, the Essence Reaver rushes, the Infinity Edges, all of the craziness. He is really silly because he basically hits harder than any other champion with all of the extra AD he gets from his Bone Tooth necklace stacks. So he essentially just has more to work with a crit build than a standard champion that builds crit. So it was probably overpowered a bit to begin with.
I don't know. In my experience, and you tell me if you've seen differently, but in my experience, the crit Rengar didn't suck any less than the lethality Rengar did. Maybe he'd get ahead early game, but he'd still int late game.
I think on a champion that's as volatile as like Rengar, I think that's going to happen with either build. I feel like the crit build, the numbers on that are just a little too silly, even for like full damage. So
Yeah, he just doesn't provide enough as a jungler, I don't think.
he basically gets like 2 items worth of AD just from his passive.
I agree with you that it was a little silly to have him building crit instead of lethality, and I'm fine with this very big nerf. I think to the crit build because this is a
Yes.
bread and butter skill.
Yeah.
But but I man, it just hurts me to see him nerfed even more because if he ends up on my team, he's just gonna int even harder.
No, I don't think Rengars are as bad as like Shakos. I would take a Rengar or Kha'Zix over like a Shaco or a Twitch or a Nidalee or any of those people.
Well, I think we would take anybody over Nidalee, right? But I would take Shaco over either one of them, and I
No
would take
way,
Kha'Zix
man.
over Rengar every day of the week.
Kha'Zix and Rengar are way more easy to execute and be useful. Shaco is such a sneak up on you when your pants are down champion. Kha'Zix
Uh-huh.
and Rengar like they'll want to jump you when you're at full health. You know.
Yeah, but Shaco will get away even if you don't manage to kill him.
Well, Rengar and Kha'Zix can be slippery sometimes too.
Kha'Zix is slippery after he gets the kill. Rengar would be slippery if he didn't die in a second and a half. That's how I feel
Okay,
about it.
I hear you. Next up, look who it is. It's some changes to
Your
Shaco,
boy.
actually. Yeah.
And by the way, Shaco is one of the champs that received like an immediate hotfix nerf
Yeah, we'll
in
get to
arena
that.
mode.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't know about arena mode, but there is some hot fixes at the bottom of this that we will cover.
Yeah, they made his cooldown take like twice as long in arena mode on the Deceive because otherwise he just uses it to jump away from people and get over the wall, and you can't kill him.
Yeah, that sounds about right. All right, These are the kind of Shaco changes I don't mind seeing. Fuck the AP shenanigans.
Yeah, that I'm with you there.
More front-loaded power into deceive and backstab, and less power into Jack in the Box and hallucinate. I think makes for a better Shaco play state.
Yeah.
And then the rest of this junk is just like tweaks on the interaction he has with buffs and items. So
Yeah, I don't think any of that is too big. But what I really like about the change they made here is that Deceive, sometimes they'll just use that to get away. And by giving him more damage on it and not like lowering the cooldown or something like that, they're encouraging him to get back in there and try to fight somebody with the deceive rather than to just use it as a cheesy escape. I like this very much.
Yep. I'm all for the glass cannon AD Shakos.
Yeah. The AP where you just like put a bunch of boxes and walk away, that's stupid.
You got that right. Okay, next up we've got Shyvana. I guess I should be glad with this for the same reason I'm glad about the Shaco changes, because they dipped back into her OG playstyle where she was like an AD off tank, and now there's a little bit more support for that after the 2 billion AP buffs that she's been given over like the last 2 years. Now she gets some kind of turning her Q into Rengar's Q, honestly, what we got here. We got just more uptime, more attack speed when it's up, more scaling, and then she gets some actual AD scaling on one of her dragon abilities, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the first patch in how long that they haven't encouraged something degenerate with their changes. I
I think they capped out. Yeah.
like it's so refreshing. I didn't think that Shyvana really needed a buff,
For this
but
style, I think she does.
if they're gonna buff her, this is the way to do it. Yeah. I would have liked to see an AP nerf along with it, but I'll take what I can get. It's nice that they're encouraging her to actually use her human form a little bit and to use the AD build a little bit. Yeah, this is nice.
Alright, skipping down through some of these bug changes, we've got some changes to Volibear. We've got a big buff on his passive that seems small, but I think this is actually pretty impactful. Is basically his built-in Gnasher's Tooth. It's really strong. The perma push that he gets when it's stacked up, just very impactful. It applies on his Q and his W. It stacks up his passive, and it's just his passive is just so much free stats and utility for something you don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Such a powerful ability.
So this is applying on every hit and some of his abilities, right?
It only applies on his hits once his passive is turned on. He has to get a certain amount of passives to get the lightning claws.
Has to get the abilities first, and then he uses the 50% on hit.
Yes, but all of his abilities give him a stack towards his passive, including his auto attacks. So it doesn't take him long to do it. But once he has Relentless Storm triggered, it applies on his Q and his W. Because it's an auto.
And then his E, I think, right, is the Frenzied. That's considerably more tankiness now.
This is his W. His E is the storm that he drops on the ground.
Ah, got it.
Yes, this is actually a huge
deal.
That
was the W.
Assuming he's not building AP and he's going his more traditional, like, giant slob Tom Kench builds, having a missing health ratio this high is just absolutely bananas. In extended trades, he's going to be king.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if there's no one that can execute him.
And like if you got Spirit Visage, woof.
Oh yeah, 28% missing health, I think.
More than that.
Woo, Lordy, he coming.
You don't get a chance to use this like very often, but when you are in an extended fight with another kind of champion that's similar to you, the heal is just so clutch.
Yeah, if you're going against like an Ornn or something like that.
Yeah, a lot of them take a Divine Sunderer too, so that's another thing that applies on hit on Frenzied Maul as well. So you can stack this with a lot of silly things that make it really good.
He healing.
Yep. I really like his rework. I think it's probably 9 or 10 of my top 10 best reworks in League of Legends history.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was pretty good too. I don't know that I'd have it that high, but I think they did a good job with him.
Alright, next up we got Xerath, who has a pretty entertaining... This is one of my old school boys from the olden days, when I would take really bad mid laners mid all the time. Back when you didn't have an assassin going mid on both sides every single game. We got a really fun change.
Season 3, but also not Season 13.
Yeah, it was kind of like his rework, and then for like the next 3 or 4 years after his rework.
Yeah.
So first up, we've got less mana. That's okay. And then we got some changes to his passive where he hits something and gets mana. We got an increase on the cooldown to that, but now he reduces it by last hitting in lane, essentially, and he can get the mana back while split pushing against structures, against the turret. Obviously, he still gets twice as much when he auto-attacks a champion, so that'll still be awesome, unlike, say, support Xerath.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't get the chance to auto-attack people in mid lane very often without paying for it. And then the big fun one, he's got another stack on his ultimate from 3, 4, 5 to 4, 5, and 6. The fun just never ends.
Yeah, this is cool.
It did obviously receive a small damage and AP ratio nerf, but then the upside is it's overall a large damage increase if you actually manage to hit them consistently with more and more shots. I'm pretty sure it very quickly becomes better than it was before for too long.
If you hit the one extra shot, because you get one extra shot, it does way more than before. If you hit the same number of shots and you missed one extra, it'll do a little bit less. But this is definitely a buff, this part. And I think the whole, I don't want to say mini rework, but the whole package of changes here adds up to being a buff.
For definitely, don't be surprised with this new powerful ultimate passive effect he has now to see like people get Rylas on him instead of Magic Pen, because that means
good call.
With the 1 second slow, it all but guarantees that you can get all of the stacks on these if they don't flash dash, of course. But yeah, Rylas is going to be way more appetizing to max the damage amp on this.
Yeah, I very rarely buy Rylai's on any champ that already has a slow built into their kit, like his W. But in this special case, I could see it happening, where the Rylai's actually make sense. Because if you can hit all 6 of them, even 4 or 5 of them, and amp the damage up by... Oh, and see, the more AP you have, the more amp you get as well.
Yeah.
So if he's at like 500, 600, 700 AP with a Rabadance, oh man, like not only is it going to do all that base damage and all that AP damage, but it's going to be increased by 70% every time he hits one. No, about 60%. I'm wrong. Even if you hit the same number, you're definitely doing more damage than you were before now. This is huge. Yep. Something I thought would have been really cool if they wanted to get wacky would have been you only get 2 charges, but every time you hit one, you get another free charge. So it's basically like, keep shooting until you miss.
Oh, jeez.
I thought that would be pretty cool. But
they should just nerf it into the ground, but you just keep shooting as long as you keep hitting?
Yes, exactly. Shoot till you miss, except it's like in Space Jam, like, a young Michael Jordan. He just hits 100 baskets in a row.
They should make it like a Starfall used to be, where you lose 5 MR every time you get hit by one of them, too.
Oh, well, that's kind of what's happening here, right?
Almost, not quite, but yeah.
You're taking more damage every time you get hit.
That would be something else.
I do remember that, just running up to people as like a tanky Soraka and star calling them until they were dead.
Yeah, I think I did that a little bit, like 10, 11 years ago.
I love doing that. And yeah, that would be 10 years ago. 9 years ago, she got reworked. Last thing that I just wanted to say about Xerath, that I've always found kind of interesting. He's the type of champ that almost every single game, I see him go like 12, 1, and 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
And he doesn't always win those games. He's the type of champion that it feels like, and Morgana's another one like this, it feels like you do so much, but you have to do so much to actually like lead your team to a win with this champion. Do you feel the same way?
You're absolutely right. I've played a lot of Xerath, and you're absolutely right. It's easy for him to get kills. It's pretty easy to stay out of like trouble. And yeah, you really have to put on the pain to get the W sometimes.
Yeah, it's like it's easy to execute, but that burden of execution is so high.
It's kind of like Zoe. You're under so much pressure to make a catch,
Yeah, and I never really understood why Xerath had that dynamic to him where he needed to do so much.
I think Xerath's way better than like those other champions that are like that, kind of like Lux or Zoe or Nidalee. Those champions that have to make some kind of big catch on someone, because his cooldowns are just way more lower and he's way less dependent on landing stuns and shit like that.
Yeah, I play with like the world's best luck, so it always seems like she's winning. But but yeah, I agree with you. Xerath is better than most of those champs, or at least feels better to me. And I've always been surprised that I see him lose so much with such a good high stat line.
He just has ridiculous like base numbers and ratios and cooldowns. He's a very like overstated champion, in my opinion.
His cooldowns in particular,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, you're firing almost like as a steady stream in the late game.
yeah, his Q is very low.
It's like a Talia Q.
All right, I think. Oh no, that's right. One more change here. We got some quality of life and/or funky changes for Zyra, and then we'll get into the items. We've got some more jungling silliness on the horizon for Zyra is going to join the League of Clowns alongside Karthus and the gang.
Uh-huh.
We got some more damage to monsters from Thorn Spitter and Vine Lasher. We got more flat damage. We've got, yeah, and then her seeds are more, or plants are more tanky, I mean to say. Oh, wait, they're less tanky. I think they're both.
Where did they change the tankiness?
For the Vine Lasher and the Thorn Spitter, they take more damage from range attack, but less damage from AoE.
Oh, I see it. Yes.
I was saying the names of the plants, but whatever. On the upside, though, she gets more seeds upon leveling up her W.
Yeah, that's only on the that's only when she hits level 3. That's the only time that'll matter.
Yeah, I guess so.
Just means when she hits level 3, she'll have a little bit more vision or lane pressure for the next like 20 seconds.
Yep, and then similar to Lysandra, she's getting the buffer flash buff, so she can do her E like the best of them. I think Morgana is now the only person that can't do that.
I like the I like when champions are able to use like a crazy flash play. Like if you're that confident you're gonna hit someone and you're willing to waste your flash to do it, go for it, man.
Yep, I approve.
What I don't like here is what they're trying to do in shoehorning her into the jungle. Like there's two reasons you could bring a champ that wasn't into the jungle into the jungle. One, and this is the good reason, is because players figured out like, oh, I really like these mechanics and I think they'd be fun to use in the jungle. Like, this champion just needs to be able to jungle, and then they'd be a great jungler. The second reason is just because you're shoehorning them in because you want players who normally wouldn't have any champ that can jungle, right? Supports are a big class of that. There really aren't any supports besides Ivern that can go into the jungle. And they just want to basically, make sure that if people get auto-filled, that there's more people to take the jungle. That's not such a good reason to shoehorn a champion in, and I think that's what they were doing here. What do you think?
They probably recognize that her time in mid lane is far, far in the past, and all she's been is support for many years. So they're like, "What the hell? Let's shake up the formula and trick some people into trolling their team."
Why don't they just give her like a tiny bit more safety and AP?
I can tell you one thing: this is definitely going to fall on its face because the two things she would have needed the most to be in the jungle is one, the speed at which she generates seedlings and the speed at which she summons seedlings from her passive. Without either of those, she ain't going to clear for shit because she has to like be in the area and establish those to actually clear these camps. So this is going to fall flat on its face.
Agreed on all counts, and she really, in order to be an effective jungler, would probably need some type of movement speed boost or gap closer too. She has nothing like that.
Yep. I was more down for the Morgana jungle. This is stupid.
Yeah, Morgana jungle, like hitting those long range binds seems like it's a better thing.
Yeah, that's
I
a
don't
death
know.
sentence.
No, that would be Thresh's Q.
Okay. Next up, okay, that's it for the champs. Now we've got the items. First up, we've got Axiom Arc. They probably nerfed this because too many goofballs that did not build any lethality were just building this only as their A lethality item, just for goofy interactions and stuff like Ashe or other supports or a few other people with utility ultimates. So now you're basically stuck with a full lethality build if you want to get the most out of this item. Which,
Yes, but consider how good this is if you have a full lethality build of 60 or 70 lethality. That's at 0.4% per one lethality.
I haven't done the math. How much would you need to get back in over 20?
You would need, let's see, you would need 15%, so you would need 37 lethality. You would need 18 above and beyond the axiom arc, basically. 18 to 19. And so if you have, for example, just a Prowler's Claw and not even any of the runes or anything that gives you lethality, you're good. You're back to where you were.
So Axiom Arc's base stats plus one other lethality item gets you to the 20%?
Yes.
Okay, then yeah, that's probably busted as shit, because you can get way more than that.
Yeah, this is quite good if you're going a full assassin build.
Yeah, this is something I would think Talon would want really hard, because his ultimate is already on a very low cooldown.
Yeah, I could even see a world where, like, maybe even, like, Katarina would be able to, like, ult multiple times in a fight now.
Yeah, you'd think so, but between the fact that her passive kind of already does that and the fact that all of her abilities actually do magic damage, building lethality on her probably goes to waste.
Oh, that's true, that's true. She would need a lot of lethality there, compared to what she can do with AP. Yeah, or even on hit. Yeah. You're right.
Alright, next up we've got another nerf to Gale Force's ability.
Maybe Kiana would be good.
Yeah, probably. And a nerf on the active component once again. This was at like 45 seconds when it first came out. Nerfed over and over and over. Kind of makes sense. It's a real, like, basically a second flash in the back pocket, essentially, to get you out of trouble. And they clamped down on the damage, which I fully approve of, because it always should have been like mobility first kind of.
Yes, absolutely. Perspective. Especially now that shield bow isn't even the mythic you choose for defense or escapability.
Yeah, so 2 minutes, I don't mind. It seems kind of steep. I think 90 was a good number. 2 minutes is probably okay, though.
I'm with you. I liked 90 a little better. I don't hate this change, but really, you know, what reason is there to not build Guinsoo's in every ADC now?
Yep. You can't build... Yeah, you're right. Okay, next up we got Infinity Edge. Dropped 5 damage, but a rare crazy change here. We've got 10 more damage on the critical strike multiplier, which then will raise it back to 225 that it used to be a couple years ago prior to being 250. Right now it's currently 215. So this will take it halfway back to the golden years of 250. So that'll be the old... or the new maximum critical strike damage cap with this change. So that's cool.
Yeah, this is a nice buff to Infinity Edge, but it's not Guinsoo's.
Keep in mind Infinity Edge is a mythic now, so you're going to probably need even more help to want to take this over the others. Which is what we were saying during the Doom patch. Yeah.
Yes, Gale Force just got worse. The Navori is only good on a couple of champs.
Alright, next up we got Prowler's Claw. Since this got demoted back down to legendary status, it lost some of those stats. Now it's getting some of those back. Not much else to say about it.
Yeah, just that it's a great combination with Axiom Arc here.
Okie dokie, and then we got a really awesome change to Randuin's Omen. It's a really brilliant niche item. I'm so glad they gave it its old passive back, and now its passive is getting a nice little buff. I feel like in the Supreme late game, tanks have a hard time dealing with like AD carries. In the mid game, they might be king, but I feel like in the real late game, it's tough for any of the tanks aside from like the most dedicated tanks to truly be tanky. Because not everyone can be like Rammus, Sejuani, and, you know, the boys.
Yeah, and that's never been truer than this season, where you have, you know, all of these, like, super shredder items on the ADCs. I like this. I think they could have honestly gone even further. What do you think?
25 is probably good.
Okay.
30 sounds too high. Okay, next up we've got the Spear of Shojin, which is the item that gives you more ability haste the more damage you have. Coming down a little in the price, but it's getting a little more health. Yeah. That's a funny bug. I like that. Anyway,
Dragon Force no longer grants ultimate. Oh wow, yeah, that would be crazy.
I wonder. I wonder
I wonder which
which
champions
person.
there were.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I wonder which Korean figured out that there's a champion that did that.
Oh my god, if I put this on Malphite.
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably like one champ that it was doing that on or something.
Maybe it was like Corky or something like that, and it was like, the game thought that it was just a regular ability.
Yeah, it would probably be some stupid champ that would never build Spiritogen, and that's probably how someone was doing
Why
it.
it took so long.
Yeah, because if it was a bruiser, they'd be like, "What? Riven's got her ult?" And you're like, "What?" It would be something like that. Okay, next up we got Spirit Visage. Nice buff for one of my favorite items. Nice extra 60 MR to bring it closer in line with Force of Nature. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, just more reason for Volibear or Aatrox to be overpowered with it, right? Like this is really good if you're going against like a 3 AP team.
Yep. And then Static Shiv, which has received a change every single patch since it came back into the game. We've got more attack speed. We've got less wave clear after it needed more wave clear for 3 patches straight. So, whatever.
Yeah, let's be honest. Like the reason you're bringing Static Shiv in your build is either because you want lots of quick wave clear and your champion doesn't have it, or because you're doing some type of like cheesy AP Lichbane build. So I don't think the attack speed is really going to help anyone enough to compensate for losing part of what this item actually did well.
Yep. Alright, nearing the end here, we got Sterix Gauge, which is becoming a little cheaper, getting a health buff. I'd say it has dropped off in popularity a bit, but hopefully this will help it off somewhat.
Yeah, this is an item that I personally like a lot, but I don't see too many people build. I know it doesn't give you the amount of attack damage that it really used to in the past, but even 50% of your base AD can be nice.
They made it so it wasn't garbage on ranged people. I bet more people would buy it.
Oh, sure. But when I bring like a bruiser or even a tank into a game, I personally like going to this item. I don't really know why, but it feels good to have that free lifeline.
It's good. It does give a lot of AD for how much health it gets.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few people it can give like 50 plus AD to.
Yeah, because that 50% base AD is not just what you have at level 1, but what you gain with all your other levels too.
Yep. Alright, finally for the items we have Trinity Force, which is getting a bit of a nerf here. I don't know why. Less attack speed, less stacks, and less power as you get your stacks. Not a huge nerf though.
I'm not totally sure this is meant to be a nerf. And also with Trinity Force, like this is the one item where they basically balance this based on the memes. Like they're probably making a legitimate attempt to do something with balance here, but they're also thinking, how can we add more threes to it? It's less total stacks, but let's say you only get 2 or 3 stacks, or even 4 stacks. The change to the threefold strike is actually positive until you would have hit all 5 stacks of it.
Huh.
So like now with three stacks, you get 18%. In the past, you would have gotten 12. But in the past, you would have been able to go all the way to 20 with 5 stacks. I think this is your favorite phrase, power neutral.
Yeah, it's okay. Alright, that does it for items. We've got one summoner spell change. I'm a bit depressed to see this because I have been rocking the ghost pretty consistently ever since this was put into the game. But now you no longer get more ghost duration from takedowns. Kind of a bummer for having those 40-second long ghosts is the thing of the past now.
Who do you think is the most sad about this, Singed or Darius?
They were both taking it before you even got the takedown thing, so I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I mean, it's sad for anyone that would take it. It sucks. It's a bummer. I don't think just making it last 5 seconds longer really makes up for it, to be honest.
Yeah, usually if you're using the ghost, one of two things is happening. One, you're using it for a quick getaway and you don't need it for 15 seconds. Or two, you're using it because you're gonna get a KO by running up to someone. So probably a nerf here.
This thing is bananas in ARAM, let me tell you.
Oh, I believe you.
At least it used to be. All right, and now some stuff that basically never gets messed with, so that means it needs changes. We've got a change to red buff here where it's doing less damage on hit and over time, true damage, and now it has an even more pathetic slow 5%. Are you kidding? It's hard to even register that.
Yeah, I assume that by level 6 it's 10% already. Looking at it, yes, that's correct. Yeah, and together with the next change, the ability haste increasing based on level for the blue buff. I actually really like these changes because, in my opinion, what?
I was just about to say, considering 10 ability haste is garbage now, and back in the old days, 10 cooldown reduction was actually a lot. This is probably
Yeah,
warranted.
ability haste, particularly as you get more of it, is worth a lot less than cooldown reduction was worth once you get more of it. So yeah, I've always been of the opinion that the red buff really is a game changer. Like applying even a 10% slow constantly stops a lot of people from getting away from your ganks. Blue buff was kind of just a nice to have, and I'd like them to feel like they're pretty equal based on what champion that you get them on. So I actually like these changes a lot. They're pretty small.
Yep. Alright, before we get into the favorite part of this video, we're going to scroll past these impactful ARAM changes and go down to the hot fixes. Oop, we don't want to look at that one yet.
Oh my god, they nerfed Sona even harder in ARAM? Oh, that poor girl.
Oh, ARAM specific. Oh, this is all arena crap. All okay. Never
Yep.
mind then. Okay, we're done with. We'll go back to this Neferi hot change when we're done talking about it. Okay, let's move over to our new window over here. The newest champion on League, Neferi, the Hound of 100 Bites. Yikes.
Zoinks.
All right. I actually only read all of these abilities once. I did not do my usual due diligence reading all of this stuff as much as I usually do. Okay, so basically the gist of it is she runs around with like a bunch of helpers, a bunch of Wolfpack homies that she kind of coordinates all of her abilities and stuff with. Why don't you take us through these abilities?
Okay. So to be honest, even though they put a lot of like visual detail and lore into the pack, from what I've seen so far, the pack dogs don't really do that much, and Neferi herself is really doing most of the chasing and most of the damage. So the first thing, the innate, basically just every number of seconds. You could basically think of about maybe 15 seconds as a baseline, maybe 10 to 15, depending on the time of the game. She is going to summon a Shadow Hound. They look really cool, but they don't really do that much besides take aggro for you and do a little bit more damage to the jungle camps.
When I first read all these abilities, I was kind of impressed. I liked what I saw. It was certainly more impressive than Milo.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on it that I'll express at the end, but I guess as a spoiler, I do think that she's kind of a cool champion. So then we've got her Q. This is basically like a fairly short range projectile that she can throw out. Or sorry, do we want to discuss every part of it before I go through each ability?
Do what you're doing.
Okay. So we've got her Q, fairly short range projectile. She can basically fling at a jungle camp or at an enemy. The mana cost looks kind of heavy on this, but in the little bit of Neferi that I've seen, I haven't seen her really run out of mana. And if she hits the same target twice in a row, it'll do basically a lot of extra damage. In addition, what's kind of cool for her, but not so cool for everybody else in the game, is a lot of the damage from this is coming from a damage over time bleed. And, because what we need in the game is more random DOTs, right?
I don't really have a problem with it.
So you can basically hit someone and then run away because, you're probably going to take him down in the end anyway.
I mean,
So that's her
Ignite's
Q.
Ignite's old as the game itself.
Yep. And that was like the one like signature DOT, but all the other DOTs, Scorch and whatever, those are all just wannabes.
Technically, Scorch only does 1 damage of instance,
One damage
or an
instant?
instance, one instance of damage.
I think it's a burn over time.
No, there's a 1 second or 1.5 second delay, and it does damage once.
Oh, it's a delay rather than an over 1.5 seconds.
Yeah.
Got it.
Do your research, people.
It's kind of the same type of thing though, isn't it? All right. So her W, Hound's Pursuit. I keep mixing up her W and her E. But I think that she does. She dashes with both her W and her E. So the W, you basically see her channeling for a short time, and then she dashes actually like a fairly long distance. At max level, this is it looks like it's 940. And that, based on Call of the Pack's rank. Oh, okay. So Call of the Pack is her ultimate. So it's basically based on her level rather than the skill level, the range. But even 700 is a pretty nice dash, and 940 is insane when you think about it. You're almost like a mini Nocturne at that point. So you dash to them, and you'll do damage with the first champion that you hit. And you'll also slow them by 99%, basically reducing their movement speed to 110 for a quarter of a second. Quarter of a second doesn't sound like a lot, but in the one gameplay video that I watched of her, because I haven't had the pleasure of actually seeing her played on the Rift yet, but in the one gameplay video I saw, like that 99% slow actually came in pretty big in terms of making sure that a target wouldn't get away. And your hounds also, hit the target that you're dashing to, but they only do 10% damage per hound. So if you've got your ult out and you've got like 5 hounds, that's not bad. But if you've got like 2 hounds, just forget about it. It's all the damage that you're doing. Worth noting is that this has a pretty nice AD ratio of 80% of your bonus AD. She is definitely a champion that is meant to be played glass cannon, probably lethality.
Cool. Repeat, is it like only a jungler or what?
I have seen basically like video captions and like pro builds like titles of her being a mid laner as well, but I think she is primarily jungle.
That's neat.
Yeah. She has a lot of mobility, so I could see her making some good roams from mid. Her E, Eviscerate. So this is kind of her bread and butter dash. It's got a nice low cooldown. She doesn't have to channel to use it. And often you're going to use this after you use your W to catch up to someone trying to get away. And you will catch up to them. She has lots of dashes, and she is quick. So not a ton of damage here. You have the dash damage, which is pathetic, but does have 60% bonus AD ratio. She has the flurry, which is basically maybe think a little bit of like a Bel'Veth E is probably the best way that I can explain the flurry. Although I don't think that you have to stay in place as much as the Bel'Veth E does. And 90% bonus AD ratio is pretty crazy there. So at first when I was looking at her her abilities on the wiki before I actually looked at the gameplay videos, it felt like her damage was too low to really be effective. But she has really high bonus AD ratios, and what I noticed watching people play was that if you get ahead, These high AD ratios and the ability to stick to people during a chase makes her into an absolute terror.
Yeah, looks like some pretty sticky chase potential here.
Yeah, and not only chase potential, but also with such a low cooldown on the E, fairly good ability to get out of a fight afterwards. And finally, we have her ultimate, which is, mostly a just a big stat package: movement speed, attack damage, cooldown. She gets a shield, which is not to be sneezed at. At level 3 with a lot of AD, you could be talking 700 shield, which is basically like 2 Lulu E's. This is really going to be used when you want to catch up with somebody that might be very slippery, and then they won't be as slippery anymore. You can also use it for getaways, or just to get a little bit of extra damage to win a duel. Think of this as like a very movement-heavy overall stat buff. A little bit like Singed, if you will. Obviously, it doesn't feel like Singed, but it does a lot of the same things.
Yeah, I think she has a really cool kit. Honestly, I could see someone like trying to go off tank with her. I mean, it would depend on how well the pets scale and stuff.
Yeah, so just I didn't totally the pets don't scale that well. It really is. She is the one doing a lot of damage with her AD ratios. The pets, the main reason you have the pets actually are to clear your jungle camps, because not only will the pets do a little bit of extra damage to the jungle camps, almost like having a second pet, but they will also draw the jungle monsters' attacks, their aggro. So she can basically full clear the jungle, taking almost no damage. That's honestly like the best gameplay purpose I've seen so far for the pets, for the pack wolves.
Yeah, if we scroll down under her ultimate, we can actually see the breakdown of the internal abilities of the extra pack mates and what they scale off of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm disappointed that they don't scale better in terms of health. They don't scale off of her health or scale better off of levels or her own damage or something. The
Yeah,
health
that
seems
was.
kind of bad.
Yeah, I mean, even on her abilities, it's like, ooh, they do 10% of the damage that she did. I really thought she was gonna be like a leader of the pack type of let me jump on them and then let all my wolves sick them. But I was a little disappointed to see that. But when I actually saw her in action, she doesn't need the wolves to do a lot to enemy champions. She can do it herself. So you can really think of these guys just as an aggro taking second pet in the jungle.
Yeah, I would have also
That's
been.
predicting them. They do look really cool though. Like when they're attacking the jungle camps, it almost looks like they're using Master Yi's Alpha Strike constantly. It's really cool looking.
I'll check that out after this. I'll screw around with her in the custom tool.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I feel the
She
same
looks
way. I think it would have been more cool if a lot more of her power was shifted into the pet, since she was way more dependent on maintaining the pack count and stuff like that. And
So
it
here's
would have
my
been
hot take.
cool if they
Go on.
all got up to like 800,000 health apiece or something.
I don't even know if they needed more health, but it'd be cool if they did more damage and she did a little bit less.
Well,
But
350 health, they can all just die to like one ability later on. That
yeah.
sucks. They only have 80 health at level 1? What?
Yes, but by the time that you've actually like made your engage on an enemy champion, they've already done what they're gonna do. It's fine if they die to one ability after that. Here's my hot take. Here's my hot take of patch 13.14. Naafiri is a great Nidalee rework. This is
Yeah.
essentially, if I wanted, if and I'm sure we will get to Italy at some point in our Champion Judgment series.
I'll be honest, I
But
have
if
so much disdain for her, I don't even think I want to make her better.
if I only have disdain for the people who play her. Um, if I were to try and make Nidalee a more practical, more fun, and more viable champion, I think this is probably something like the way I would go. And I think that they did probably better with Neferi than I would be able to do with Nidalee. Because
I'll give you that.
she has a lot of the same play patterns in terms of trying to single out a target and then jump in. Really, she has two win conditions, and that's one, she gets very far ahead early and then she's just a terror the whole game. Or two, she gets good at picking off stragglers or really low health targets after a fight that the other team won. She can be very good cleanup, but she has to be very choosy about which target she goes in on. Because if she goes into like 3 or 4 people at a time, even the vid that I saw that she was way ahead, she gets smushed. Not as smushed as Nidalee, but still smushed. So what she does better than Nidalee, really, is after she kind of marks you and then makes her leap in. First of all, she leaps in from a much more unpredictable angle. Second of all, she can do her damage quicker, and then she has dashes to get out much quicker than Nidalee does. Nidalee will eventually have a dash to get out, but Neferi has much better ones. Third of all, that 99% slow, even though it's only a quarter of a second, that is CC, that not only operates as utility for your team, but also makes it very hard for even a slippery target to get away. Because even if they somehow have as many dashes as you do, that 1 second that they're moving at 110 range means that you can even jump ahead of them with your dash. I saw Neferi make a really cool move against an ulting Xayah. As Xayah tried to like jump back in her ultimate, Neferi just dashed past her, and then as soon as Xayah came down, Neferi just slashed Xayah, and yeah, it wasn't even close.
Well, two things I noticed when I was listening to you, both those dashes, unlike some of the more modern champions, I noticed that neither of them had the caveat of it like can't go through terrain, so that seems pretty busted in terms of gank, like Zac levels of busted. Not as crazy as Zac's, but it seems like it would go pretty far.
I'm not totally sure, but I don't think I ever saw her use the E through a wall. It's possible that she could certainly use it over a small or thin wall. You're not going to use the E to get over like a very thick wall, but the W, you can use that to get over a very thick wall.
And then the second thing I noticed as I was looking at the pet scaling ratios, yes, the health looks pathetic and the damage looks laughable. One thing I did notice is they have 100% of Neferi's attack speed, and I was thinking like it would be a shame if they added some kind of a critical strike synergy so they could all like benefit from her critical strike.
Oh god, I thought you were gonna say, if they all applied on hits.
Well, they could do that. All they would have to do is reduce the on-hit effectiveness to like 20% or something. Just like Urgot's W or whatever.
That would be kind of cool, honestly, right? That way she could kind of build more of anything, without being forced into one thing.
It would be cool, but I don't think I would look forward to like the grudge spam. I think it'd be really annoying.
Yeah, you're probably right. Although I still think like the use case for building armor pen is so good that she probably won't do anything else anyway.
Well, I noticed she doesn't have any attack speed steroids, and so I don't know. I think it would have been cool if she had a critical strike synergy similar to how Rengar tries to throw it in there to give her another way to build. Because the way this looks, it seems like it's kind of lethality or nothing.
It definitely, I would say, is like a lethality or nothing type of, yeah, I guess so. It would be nice if she could go a different type of glass cannon with the crit synergy.
You know me, though. I'm going to try to figure out a way to make this into like a bruiser, so I'm going to go...
The moment you said that, I didn't like it at all, and I think you've actually convinced me. That would give her a little bit more build flexibility.
I'm going to be working in the old, we got Bork... What the hell's the...
The what?
Jack show. Yeah, Bork Jack shows. Let's go.
Bork Jack show. Oh, that's crazy.
I love building some of these glass cannon champions and seeing how well they do is like a tankier option,
Yeah, the reason why I think that it will not work on Neferi is because her base damages are pathetic.
That's why you got to throw in the Titanic later. You can get away with so many champions building like just Bork or just Titanic. They'd scale so well into like the late game.
Well, if you actually make that work, I'm sure everyone out there wants to hear about it. Like, tell us about it if you actually like manage to win a few games in a row doing that.
The only thing that makes me like a depressed wreck is how foolish they were to not make the health of her packmates scale with anything. Because if you were going a super tank build, I think it would be super cool if that made all of your packmates scale a lot better. If you personally had a shitload of health and armor and magic resistance, and they scaled from your health, armor, and magic resistance, because that's what you were indexing into, I think that would actually make her a lot more exciting. But
Meanwhile, the only thing that makes me a depressed wreck is my life.
instead, they just decided to not really give her any scaling on her pets of note. I mean, the damage is laughable, and all the other stuff doesn't even scale off of Neferi's own stats, so it's kind of a missed opportunity, I think.
Yeah, if they want to make that higher, what they might end up doing is giving your the wolves a higher bonus AD ratio on their attacks. You know, you make that 8 to 10%, and all of a sudden we're not laughing at it.
It's the tankiness that I'm really concerned with. I feel like I mean, League's been around a long time. We've had enough of these kind of things in the games. These pets, these traps, these the turrets of Heimerdinger, the Zyrus plants. We've had enough of these extra things you throw out that get brushed aside so easily. I was hoping that her pets would be a little different, like finally a champion that actually has like a real, group of homies that they don't just get hit by the tower once or get hit by one random AOE and they're all fucking gone.
Yeah, the problem with those, I mean, is kind of the same problem with like a Heimerdinger turret or something. Like, you don't want a minion mancer to be able to just step back, have their minions go forward and do all of the work. You want them to have to actually hit something, preferably at close range.
Well,
But this is the type of champion they could have done that with, right? If she goes in and dashes and then gets out and her wolves finish off the job.
that's the thing. I'm not saying they have to do all the work. What I'm saying is, I
Right.
think that her build expression should have been represented in the scaling power of her pack mates. So if you were facing like a heavy AP team, if she had like 250 MR, all of her pack mates would have like 150 or 200 MR or something, and then suddenly it'd be. I feel like it'd be a lot of fun leverage if your build expression was reflected in the stat makeup of the pack mates.
I mean, how about if they did something really wacky, like, all of her skills are bonus AD like they are now, but her wolves would actually have like heavy AP scaling
That's actually pretty brilliant. I like that.
and do magic damage so that she can actually like, based on the enemy comp or how she wants to play, be a physical or a magic damage champion, but not both.
If they did do that, it would leave her personally basically doing nothing.
Well, yeah, but she would have to dive in and actually start the engage for the wolves to do all the AP damage to the target.
I like the idea of that, but I feel like they would need to give her some hybrid scalings to make that work.
Okay. I think that the way that she plays, and particularly maybe if you would change the skills a little bit to have the wolves do more follow up when she hit her skills at close range, you'd be able to basically you'd be almost running like a super assassin build with the AP. You'd have to get in and then get out very quickly, and then your wolves would finish the job. Versus the AD would be more reliable damage.
Yeah,
No, just just spitballing a crazy idea. But yeah, I think we're in total agreement that it would have been nice if the wolves had more impact. Overall, though, from what I've seen, I think this champ is pretty cool, and definitely feels scary when she's chasing after you. You want to be around your allies. You want to have some CC.
yeah, she's cool. I don't know. I can't give her Aurelion Sol rework levels of cool. I think I gave that a 9 out of 10 or something. Or
Yeah.
was it a 10 out of 10? I don't remember.
I think you gave it a 9 out of 10,
And you didn't
and
like it
I
because
gave
it's
it
too cool.
I gave it a 6.
Okay, well, I'm giving this a 6 out of 10. It's
Well, just to be
definitely
an asshole, then I'm going to give it a 9.
it's definitely better than it is worse. There's no doubt about that. And
Yeah.
it's definitely interesting, and I like what I see. I just feel like it was kind of a squandered opportunity to come back to this type of champion after there's already been several kind of attempts at something similar, and to not really innovate much with the minions, you know?
Yeah, I have a hard time giving a champion, a new champion that I've never seen before, a rating without actually like playing with them or against them.
I'll give a
But
rating on what you've read then.
yeah, if you're just gonna like force me to give a rating from what I've read or seen, I'd give it like a 7, 7.5. I think she's a pretty cool champion. I think they probably hit on a lot of their design goals more than they usually do with new champions. And yeah, she's like a better Nidalee crossed with a little bit of like a Nocturne and a Rek'Sai.
Well, that'll do it for 13.14. Oh, wait. We got to go back to those hot fixes. The first page we were at. We were a couple days late with this videos. These hot fixes hit yesterday. Let's go over these real quick.
There was so much content to explore.
First off, she got a 5 movement speed nerf. She got a bleed damage nerf on her Q. And minion damage reduced. So I guess that is some laning phase nerfs.
Oh man, they nerfed every single thing.
Yeah, and then her E.
W.
Yeah, and then I'm just don't really know what to think on these at the moment. I feel like the only one that's probably unwarranted was the ultimate nerf.
Let me see what they did there. Oh
Just a
yeah, because they're
damage
even
nerf.
yeah, they're even just like taking away the bonus damage from the wolves. It's not that bad though. Like her AD ratios from what we were just reading were pretty insane, and now they're just somewhat insane.
Yeah, but if she's got like 3 to 6 things out, then you got to multiply every number by that many, essentially.
Yeah. When you see a new champion and you see them get this many nerfs right away, it means they came out in quite an overpowered state. That they don't usually bring out a champ in like a slightly overpowered state and then nerf them so hard that we never see them again for a year or two. This will definitely be like a really fun champ to watch in pro play. I haven't watched the pros in a while, but I might tune in just to see what Naafiri looks like once they actually unlock her.
Yep. Alright, that actually does it for 13.14. Took a long time for this one to come out. There's still a lot of silliness on the horizon with all of the tank changes coming in the next patch or whenever they plan getting those out, so that should be fun to talk about how that entire pool of champion is getting changed for the worst.
At least we'll always have patch 13.14.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure, Chrissy.
Yep, that'll do it for now. See you guys next time.